Hi everyone, it's Sam, NFT Statistics, and this is your Friday Proof Daily NFT Countdown. Lots to talk about today. Going to talk about this Christie's auction, go over a bunch of sales that happened there. Also talk about a couple art sales. There were two really cool sales from artists that I thought were really interesting. Going to get to that at the end. Let's go quickly first over a market overview. Volumes were down a small bit. You can see from this pink line, really kind of at those pre-Blur airdrop season 2 levels for volume. One thing I'm always looking at different cuts of the data, what tells an interesting story. I thought this was kind of interesting. I looked at total volume if you exclude sellers hitting WETH bids, okay, or sellers accepting bids, just NFTs that were bought by buyers that were listed. And you can see that this is really pretty much at the lows for where we've been in as long as I can see. So that's kind of painful to see that. In terms of market share, most of the market share at Blur, about 78%. But even with Blur getting market share, you have seen their volumes go down a fair bit. You have seen their unique users go down a fair bit. This here looks at their pool. If you want to buy NFTs on Blur, you have to put ETH into the pool. You can see that their pool is now below 50,000 ETH. Is there about a week ago, but kind of has been on a downtrend. So even with Blur having market share, you have seen a little bit of negative impact going on there. The story just continues that large cap index and really all NFT prices that are denominated in ETH certainly going a fair bit lower. Having a look at the components, Captains had a massive day, up 15%, and Captains are a unique project. And one of the reasons that Captains enforces royalties on both Blur and OpenSea. And I do think that when you enforce royalties, it makes it harder for the Blur airdrop farming to happen. You only really want to bid on it if you have a view, because if you're a directional view, which a lot of airdrop farmers don't have, because you have to pay the royalties on the way out. And I actually think in a weird way, that's actually been contributing to their strength. Also just a lot of strength from other factors. We'll look at that chart in a second. One thing I wanted to talk about, because people keep asking on Twitter, when is this going to end? When is this going to end? At what price does the down move end? And I think with NFTs and with collectibles, I generally don't think it's not like there's an absolute price where people start to buy. People start to buy when they perceive that demand is bigger than supply. Okay. And I think that what's happening right now is that still we're seeing more supply enter kind of this vortex of airdrop farmers trading back and forth. People are seeing those bids and saying, you know what, I'll just take it. And we aren't seeing as many real buyers come out and buy and take them out of the airdrop farmers' hands. I want to show a couple kind of tables that look at this. The first is this is who has bought punks in the past 5 days. And I looked at the wallets that have bought 2 or more. And you can see that almost all of them were bought via Blur bids, which is often not always, but often what airdrop farmers do. And then if you look at the amount of punks that have been sold by the buyers, that second to the right column, you can see almost all of the buyers have sold punks over the past few months. So these are guys who are probably trading punks in and out, probably airdrop farmers. Vast majority have also done a ton of trading on Blur via bids. So I think that this is the problem. The people buying, the people selling are all just kind of the same lot. And I think when we start to see this reverse, maybe when incentives calm down a little bit on the bids, we'll see that look a little bit better. Who knows? I looked at it for Bored Ape Yacht Club, very similar dynamic. Each of the top players all bought through bids. Most of them have sold apes in the past few months. Most of them do a ton of bidding on Blur. So I find it a little discouraging, but we'll see. I've been wrong before. But let's look at a positive chart. Okay, let's look at a chart that's not that negative. And here's a chart. If you look at prices in US dollars, the large cap index is a bit more in the middle of the range for where it's been. So, a strong ETH has offset some of the weakness in NFTs. None of us want that. We all want to make money. Even when ETH goes up, we want our NFTs to be leveraged to ETH, not negative exposure. But still, it hasn't been quite as bad in US dollar terms. Looking quickly at that Captains chart, you can see they hit basically all-time highs yesterday. So a nice little rally there. If you look at kind of not a whole lot of news from them, but they did put a teaser out on their Twitter. Check that out on Twitter, which basically was just a teaser about the Captains project coming up. I do think people are thinking, Captains is going to release a token. They say they're going to release meme coin in a time where meme coins are hot. Perhaps there's a little bit of sympathy going on there and kind of some of that money flowing in here. Mid cap index just continued, just terrible performance, really down a couple percent there. A little bit of strength in a couple projects, but a lot of weak in Degentunes, which was down 20%. Something interesting happened with Degentunes. You can see that little down move there. And basically yesterday, Blur announced that they're not going to be incentivizing points anymore. And the reason is if you look at the big trades, there was a trade for 55 ETH on one Degentune. Degentunes are trading around 0.3 ETH. So when one trades on 55 ETH, I think that there's suspicion that what's happening there is this buyer and seller is trying to pump up the volume on, which generally leads to more reward points for Blur farming. So Blur said, you can't do that, and that's going to lead us to disable these points. You saw a little bit of weakness in the project as a result. One thing I thought is interesting is that there is this kind of theme of projects that are based in Asia, captains and cubes. Azuki, I think, really is one that has a huge following among the Asian as well as Asian American community, as well as a ton of people, kind of all demographics. But if you look at these three projects, Azuki, cubes, and captains, these all have done quite well. So there have been pockets of decent market behavior even in this bear market. Looking at art projects, 4 projects to 10 ETH of volume or more. Looking a little bit into those specifically, there was a ringer that sold for 37 ETH. These beige backgrounds have generally been Grail ringers. So this price is actually the lowest sale for a beige background ringer going back all the way to April 2021, I believe. But still, 37 ETH for an art block right now is a decent sale. So congrats to the buyer and seller there. You had a bunch of Life in West America on Braindrop sales. This one here sold for 3 ETH. A couple sold below 3 ETH. Then you had a bold Chromie Squiggle sell for 14.5 ETH. Pretty nice sale for this market. Again, below where bolds have sold, but that's just a theme we've seen. And then another Gazer sold for 10 ETH. So interesting to see those sales. Second thing I want to talk about is the Christie's auction that concluded a couple days ago. Just a lot of the artists that we talk about had some really interesting sales. We'll go into a few of those. Here's a little blurb about this sale. It was called Next Wave. New York Edit showcased a bunch of AI, or no, I'm sorry, not AI. Not everything's AI, but a bunch of artists who are at the forefront of digital art today. Just a lot of the artists that we all know. They had a kind of, if you looked at that, a viewing gallery that you could go into and you could see the different pieces. Here you see a piece by ACK, and then a piece by Lascaux on the right, and then one there by Rope Renisto. That was kind of a cool thing that was on the website. But looking into where these sales actually happened, the first is Ripcash. I mean, Ripcash really was, he had a 25 ETH sale. He had another sale that I believe was around 24 ETH. I recently learned that all of Ripcash's work is entirely on chain, which is really awesome. But congratulations to Ripcash. This is really a great sale for this market. He's had sales, I believe, around 27 ETH once, but this is really close to an all-time high. So congrats to him. Brooke DiDonato, I've talked about her on the show. I really just love her work. She had 2 sales, one around 1 ETH and one around 3 ETH. This piece by Rope Renisto was auctioned off for 3.69420, a traditionally very degen number. I think I really love Rope Renisto's work. We've had him on the podcast. He's awesome. This is a very cool piece. A little bit below kind of where the floor for Life in West America was, and we see that sometimes that one-of-ones often don't get the same price that the bigger collections do because they don't have quite as many holders pushing the work and whatnot. But still, very nice to see that really cool piece. Dave Krugman. I'm going to have Dave Krugman on the podcast. I think we're going to show it next week. Awesome photographer. 4.41 ETH sale. And then this artist, Samantha Cavett, I believe that's how you pronounce her name. She's a Venezuelan photographer, currently lives in Spain, has photos that kind of have a bit of that she adds a bit of a filter on, or not filter, but does her own work, her editing to make it look like a painting. Really beautiful work. This piece sold for 6.89 ETH, near all-time highs. I don't think it was an all-time high, but near there. And then Devin Desjardins, not sure how to pronounce it, but Devon Desjardins, sorry, Dev, if you're out there, but he had a sale for 6.6 ETH. This is an up-and-coming artist. He hasn't had any one-of-one sales in Ethereum, in NFTs before. He's a in real life traditional artist with a huge following, but pretty new to the NFT scene. Does have an open edition, and this was one of the first one-of-ones he sold for 6.6 ETH. I retweeted a tweet from the buyer. Cool to see that. So congrats all around to the artists, to the buyers, and congrats to Christie's. For this market, I think this is a pretty nice set of sales. And then lastly, let's talk about a few notable sales that happened on chain yesterday. First, going to talk about a bunch of PFPs. I think while PFP floors have gone down, there were some pretty awesome Grail sales. And then we'll talk about a couple one-of-ones that I thought were really, really great. A Bluebeams Bored Ape for 300 ETH. 300 ETH in this market. This was bought by Nobody.eth. Nobody.eth and Pimp Capital are two guys who literally just figure out which NFTs they want and then go pay the price. So if you own one of those, that's a very lucky moment, but congrats to the buyer and seller on picking this one up. A hoodie CryptoPunk for 215 ETH. Now this is a Grail hoodie. This is a really nice hoodie, but we've seen 2 hoodies sell below 200 ETH. So it's nice to see that sale. A gold Kaigu Azuki. We talked a couple days ago about how Pimp Capital bought one for 170 ETH, which was the highest sale ever for a gold Kaigu. But this one here sold for 130 ETH. I believe that EB7, bought it a little while earlier, flipped it for a little bit of profit, and sold around 131, which is probably where you'll see a little bit more liquidity versus that last sale. And then this Alien Clone X, sold for 30 ETH. 30 ETH is nothing to scoff at given what's happening with the Clone X floor. But if you actually look at the Alien DNA, this is the first sale ever below 63 ETH for Alien DNA. So really seeing how much some of those grails are starting to come down with the floors. Let's look at a couple one-on-ones. This one here is called Man is the Moon by Raul Marx, sold for 10 ETH. You know, someone in the comments said yesterday, we got to figure out how on the show to show videos, because this is a video, and I think the JPEG doesn't really capture anywhere near what the video does, but a pretty awesome piece of work. That's another image from it. In the caption, it says, we almost got there. This is the third and final piece in the Genesis series by Raul Marx. Explores ambition and loss, featuring the OG Astro, who we'll show in a second, in full motion, parallels the length that we, and by implication humans, will go to reach the impossible. Sometimes we get there, sometimes we fall short. Very cool piece, very cool sale. Not every day we're getting 10 ETH sales, so congrats there. If you look at other sales that Raul Marx has had, he had one here at 31.47 ETH. That's, I believe, the top sale. Very similar one to this in terms of the video. One for 30.25, and then a couple others for 10 and 11. Just a little bit more about this artist, because I did check out his website, and he's got a really cool bio. You know, he's a 2-time Emmy Award winner. He's based in Australia, and his clients have included Westworld, did a lot of work on that, Adidas, MTV, Louis Vuitton, and more. Have a look at his website. Really cool artist. And then last sale to talk about is this one called The Young Spotsman by Rare Force One, sold for 4.4 ETH. Very cool piece of art, kind of combines these traditional art styles with robots. And I think there's just kind of a really fun contrast that you see there. Here is the artist thanking the buyer, King Rob, who bought it for 4.4 ETH, acknowledged that it's not an all-time high, but very few people are hitting all-time highs, and said that he would never have thought he'd be selling at these prices now. So awesome to see that. A little bit more of his sales. You can see he had this piece sell for 4.7 ETH, and all of these kind of follow this style of old, kind of, you know, more historic look, meeting robots. Really kind of fun there. I also checked out his Instagram, and his Instagram has a totally different look and feel. You know, much more consumerism, kind of critique look and feel, which also was quite cool. So I don't know, I thought both those artists really were fun to dig into and learn about. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you got something out of it, found it interesting. We will be back on Monday and every weekday. Like the video below, subscribe to the channel, sign up for our Telegram channel, and tell us what you think. All comments are appreciated. Try to respond as much as I can. Have a great weekend.